Lake Street is never going to be what it used to be, and West Broadway is never going to be what it used to be. They are going to be dramatically better. And they're going to be dramatically better because today we're standing hand in hand with the state to deliver new resources to these streets. They're going to be better because the Minneapolis Foundation and others in the philanthropic community have put significant dollars into this community. But these streets are going to be dramatically better because of two big important issues. One is there's a nonprofit community that we've invested in for decades that stood up immediately after the twin tragedies of the pandemic and George Floyd's murder, and they immediately got to work. And these streets will be dramatically better, especially because of the entrepreneurs. With all that has happened in these past few years, almost no one has left. Almost every single entrepreneur faced some of the greatest obstacles they would ever face, and they doubled down on making sure that Lake Street and West Broadway and 38th are going to be an even better place to be in the future. That is a remarkable story. Today, I'm R.T. Rybak. I'm from the Minneapolis Foundation. Today, we're standing here to be able to announce that $10 million of Main Street dollars from the state of Minnesota are going directly into these streets. They're built on top of the $15 million that came through the Minneapolis Foundation's Restore, Rebuild, Reimagine Fund. They come on top of the I Love Lake Street dollars that went into these areas, and there is more to come. So what we want to do is to introduce a couple of the players who've been part of this effort. We also want to say that one of the things that you'll find with these grants is that some of them will be able to allow these projects to go forward because this grant puts them over the top. In some cases, this will be one more step in a series of steps that we need to take to make sure that all these projects work. An example being the building behind us, the Coliseum, you'll hear about in a few minutes. This grant will get them closer to the finish line, but they have more to go. What we want people to see is that Lake Street's future, West Broadway's future, 38th's future, and the future of all these commercial corridors is better because of the partnership, but it also requires us to stay involved in this work. We have come an enormously long way, and we have a long way to go. So what I want to do now is to introduce the Commissioner of Deed at the state of Minnesota, but he's also been a partner who's been more than just a person leading an incredibly important state agency. He's been a real true friend to this community, and from the start, in a series of conversations that we had with him and a series of very, very complicated conversations he had with legislators in passing this legislation, it became clear that Steve Grove looked at this as more than a job, but really a mission. So I want to have everyone thank him for the great work he's done on behalf of the state and the governor. So please welcome from Deed, Steve Grove. Thank you, Richard.
Well, thank you, RT, and to the foundation, and of course to our partners at LISC and Propel, Mario and Amy, and to everyone involved here. This is a big day for Lake Street, a big day for Minneapolis, and really a big day for Minnesota. And it's also a day that's, I think, a long time coming. When you look back to the year of 2020, a year that was difficult no matter where you were in the world, it was particularly difficult here in Minneapolis. You had the COVID-19 pandemic that made every single small business in this city suffer and face unimaginable challenges. And then, of course, the murder of George Floyd completely decimated several corridors across Minneapolis and St. Paul and the civil unrest that followed it. Those were incredibly challenging times. And as the governor and lieutenant governor and our team at Deed came together and said, you know, what role should the state play in this rebuilding? We knew that when the 2021 legislative session came about, we needed to use some of those dollars to help rebuild and to help put money back into the pockets of the entrepreneurs that make corridors like this so vibrant and make the economic engine that is Minneapolis create benefits that the entire state can believe in. We also knew that every main street across Minnesota took a hit as people developed new shopping habits. They went online, they weren't able to go out in person. And so with all of that in mind, we started talking to people. We talked to RT and the foundation, we talked to developers like David Mortensen, we talked to leaders like Allison at Lake Street Council and Dorothy and Alfredo and the team at MEDA, and we started to put together a plan. What can we do to focus on clusters of businesses? Because when you're doing economic development, if you focus on a bunch of businesses in one place, the benefit far exceeds the amount of money you're investing, right? Those corridors are vibrant, they bring people together, they create new opportunity. And out of that conversation, the Main Street Economic Revitalization Program was born. It's got a lot of unique levers in it. It focuses on developers, it focuses on small businesses. $80 million in total have gone out to organizations across the state. $20 million of those dollars here to the Minneapolis Foundation for corridors like this. And they're really meant to get money out as quickly as you possibly can to corridors to revitalize these main streets and get them in great shape. And to RT's point, to even better shape than they were before the crisis of 2020. So it has been a great honor for the state to be involved here. We know that Minnesota as an economy cannot thrive if Minneapolis isn't thriving, and the Minneapolis can't thrive if the rest of the state isn't moving forward and growing as well. And so these dollars are meant to do that. When you look at the businesses that you're going to hear from today, and the businesses that are going to rebuild with this money, these are businesses that are going to just really reshape and grow this area. The Midtown Global Market, of course, a long staple of the corridor here, is going to make a major difference. Project for Pride and Living, some of the housing dollars that are going there, I think are really exciting. And of course, the Coliseum behind us. The redevelopment there is going to really liven this area, along with that East Street corridor as well. So, you know, these businesses, these developers, these leaders, they're the heroes of this moment. They've stepped forward and said, we want to rebuild. The state's here to help, do anything we can to help them create new jobs. It is a unique moment in our economy. COVID, the civil unrest that happened, has changed so much about how we operate, but we know one thing to be true. If Minnesota is going to come back and be the kind of economy we know it can be, it's going to be small businesses like those that we're helping develop here today that are going to drive that growth. So I want to thank RT and the team for putting this together, and I think I'm turning it over to Propel and Mario to speak next, one of our great partners. So to Mario.
Hello everyone, I'm Mario Hernandez with Propel Nonprofits, and we're excited to be here because we know that in the last year we've worked with over 700 nonprofit organizations, many of whom we've seen continue to support their community. And we know that organizations have stayed within these corridors, helping rebuild, helping keep connected with community, and continue to invest in the city in which they reside. We're also super excited to see a lot of names of organizations with whom we work with on a regular basis, and are excited to continue to provide technical assistance and other support as they continue to help revitalize the community.
Thank you. And so who is up next? John, great.
Oh, so cold. Trying to get it back together here. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Smikarova, Director of Property Development at Redesign, the nonprofit community development corporation that is leading the development work for the Coliseum behind us, as well as a few other sites that are nearby in what we call downtown Longfellow. The Main Street Economic Revitalization funding from the state of Minnesota is a crucial piece of funding for Redesign and our partners, two of which you'll hear from after me, to be able to begin construction and Coliseum restoration. We're tremendously grateful for the Minneapolis Foundation and the Minnesota Department of Economic and Employment Development for establishing this program and supporting our projects. The commencement of construction of the Coliseum project will be a sign of progress and hope of recovery for the Lake Street corridor and downtown Longfellow. We're very proud to be here, very proud to be in this process, and thank you so much for coming out today.
Great. Do you want to introduce your two partners?
Sure. Next we'll have Elise.
Let's bring your two partners up. Yeah.
Next we'll have Alicia Belton, the architect and one of the co-owners of the Coliseum, and Janice Downing of Common Sense Consulting, additional owner of the Coliseum. The third owner will be Chris Montana of Due North Social Spirits, who was unable to make it today.
Great, thank you, Taylor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Belton. I own an architecture firm called Urban Design Perspectives, and also a grant recipient of this wonderful funding, and also an eventual owner in this building. So proud to be a part of this project. From a community perspective, it's going to be a BIPOC ecosystem where people who are coming in the building, who are going to be working in the building, will be seen, valued, and heard. You know, from a professional standpoint, it's every architect's dream to be able to repurpose a building this historic in nature, creating a place where we're creating community in the building and having places where people can use building amenities like lactation rooms and foot washing stations and prayer and meditation rooms. And personally, you know, it's part of my ethos in using what you have, your time, your talent, and your treasure to do good and serve. And so this building will do that. It will serve community, and it will uplift the surrounding and providing economic stability and recovery in this area. So thank you so much. We're so proud to be a part of this project. Janice?
Thank you, Alicia. My name is Janice Downing. I own Common Sense Consulting at Work, and I also operate as a consultant in that business. it is a long time goal to own commercial real estate and to be able to offer it at an affordable standpoint to those that are othering just like me. And so I'm really glad to be a part of this project, thrilled to have a partner with Redesign, Alicia, Chris, and I, and we intend to not only become a part of the community, but be incredible community partners. And now I want to pass it on to Lena Go.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lena Go. I'm one of the partners of East Street Crossing. We're a food hall located at the corner of Nicollet Avenue and Cecil Newman Lane. All of us on our team are mostly immigrants and women owned, and we love this neighborhood. We love the diversity and vibrancy of the East Street neighborhood in the Whittier. And when we decided, shortly after when we decided to start the project, little did we know we would have the global pandemic and the impact of the global and local responses to the murder of George Floyd. It was not optimal for a leap of faith, but we love this neighborhood so much. Our first meal when we came to Minnesota was on East Street. And this means so much to us, and being a grantee of the Main Street grant, we're very grateful of DEED and Minneapolis Foundation, because this will put more wind under our wings and it will help us tremendously. And we want to bring people back to East Street and have faith in South Minneapolis. So we truly thank you for helping us to give back and bring the social and economic vitality to South Minneapolis. Thank you. We're blocks away, yeah. We're just at the corner.
And what happened to yours, the building, during the
We had vandalism, we had some break-ins, and during that time, and right before we started the demolition, it was the March 16th shutdown, and we had to really delay the project. We were wondering whether we could go on, and with all the happenings, and and so it took us. This will really help us to really gain that confidence, and bringing people back to a street that we love.
It looks like you got $750,000. Is that a majority of the funding you needed to kind of make your dream reality, or just a small?
It's a small portion of it, because there was a lot of renovation that we need to do to the building. It's a 100-year-old building where there's so much history in there.
So there was some vandalism, but some just renovation. It wasn't like burned down.
No.
So this is a big project just to remake.
Yes.
Remake the area.
Thank you.
No, that's great. Okay, good. I'm going to open up for questions, but just so you understand how this process worked. We spent a lot of time working with the legislature, and because of the incredible work that Steve Grove did, there was a pool of money. How much, Steve? $80 million across the state. So we competed for that in 2 rounds. There were about 6 different groups that were looking to compete from Minneapolis. We all came together in a real unprecedented way. It was a coalition led by the Minneapolis Foundation, Propel for Nonprofits, and LISC Twin Cities. LISC can't be here today, but they've been a critical partner. And Joanne Stately from our team, who's led this work, and Kate Speed from LISC, are 2 of the best single practitioners you will ever find anywhere in the country in nonprofits. They all came together. We worked with community organizations like Lake Street Council and the counterpart on West Broadway. We then, once awarded, created community tables so that the decisions about where these dollars went were first led by community. So you had a really unprecedented coalition, and I don't think we've ever seen this, of community leading the vision of a nonprofit community at its absolute peak doing great work, and with us helping to facilitate that. And that's how all of this worked. So why don't you come all in closer here, guys? Come on in, this very shy group. And by the way, if you're looking for images of something that's going on right now, we were just talking about East Street Crossing. It's directly behind the Kmart building. And it's in the old Arizona studios. It is mind-blowingly cool. So if you're looking for images of something that's almost near completed, that's a good one to do. So why don't we just open it up, and we've got a whole team to field these questions. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
those businesses and those corridors impacted by the unrest. And now the pool might be smaller and it's shared between the Twin Cities and Greater Minnesota. I guess with that in mind, how much more of a need is there for the legislature
Yeah.
to approve more funding going forward to buoy some of these projects? I mean, it only covers 30% of some people's
Right.
costs, which you mentioned might not be putting their project over the
Yeah.
edge.
That's a great question. The question was really about what is the need and what is the response from the state. Right after the destruction, David Mortensen from Mortensen Construction made an enormous contribution by having 5 people from their team spend many, many months working individually with the different businesses to help them. During that time, we built out a map, block by block by block, about how much uninsured need there was. The number was $200 million of uninsured need. We went to the legislature and asked for that money. That was not done. What they chose instead to do was to create an $80 million competitive grant where half of it went to Greater Minnesota and half here. So we're very, very pleased the legislature acted. We also recognize that there is a far greater need than that. We've continued to raise private dollars. These entrepreneurs have continued to put more of their own money into it, but there's still an ongoing need, and we'll keep assessing it. When a flood hits the Red River Valley, when a drought hits southern Minnesota, usually the state responds by giving direct aid. That is not what happened here, but the state did create a competitive pool, and we are very grateful to have those dollars.
To be clear, is there other ways to leverage funds beyond grants that don't need to be paid back? Is there there's a loan piece of this, or is that what this?
There are many loan pools available. They're not unending, but there are loan pools. But I think generally people were not looking for loans; they needed the money. Joanne, do you think is that a clear? Why don't you come up here and? Joanne is really shy, but she's the one running this operation, so she can speak. But Joanne Stately from the Minneapolis Foundation.
Yes, there is a complement to our grants that loans are available to the applicants, and that's why we have our partners with Propel and LISC. And as we go into round 2, we have META to be there to also provide loans, low interest loans. But the preference, there's already loans that most of these groups have taken out already are new market tax credits, so they're just trying to mitigate what they're going to have for ongoing debt on these buildings. So we're fully endorsing that there's more funds available for grants, and also removing the match so that doesn't become a barrier for people to applying. But yes, loans are part of this as well.
So there isn't a matching part of the grant?
There is a match. We have to match. We have, if the maximum amount is 30% of the project, but the maximum that you can get is $750,000, you have to demonstrate a match that's non-federal, non-state funds in order to qualify for that 30%. And I think, as RT said before, when we've had disasters in other areas, we haven't had to face those requirements, but I would say our groups and our individual businesses have really stepped up to the plate and have put everything on the line to rebuild their own equity. Some people are mortgaging their houses in order to do this and trying to access loans. But again, most of these are representing BIPOC individuals and businesses who don't have necessarily the access to traditional financing. So having this partnership and the grants is very critical at this point. And again, we're very thankful that we have this, but we want to improve and make it better going forward.
I would just, if I could add to that point, just from the perspective of the state, I mean, this package was most certainly a compromise, there's no question. The governor came in much higher than that, wanted to put more money into these corridors in particular. But I think it was a unique example of legislators coming together, the department as well, the governor navigating all of this for us to make sure we did get this $80 million. The loans and the grants were tools the state put forward, but the foundation gets to decide how to use those for this neighborhood. On the whole, that $80 million went 60-40 towards the metro. It matched kind of the population lens of it. That's how we kind of split it up. But I would just put this forth, with a record-setting surplus ahead of us this next coming legislative session, there is more need for programs like this. And I think we should actively look into ways that we can put more money into these corridors, because if these corridors are vibrant, if they're thriving, if they're great places to be, that's going to have an outsized impact on the rest of the state. So I think, a lot more to come, we hope.
We also want to add that when we go back into that legislative session, this group is doing remarkable work, and we believe there are lessons that can be learned around the state. And certainly as the Minneapolis Foundation, we were concerned with this whole state, and we stand ready to take some of the lessons that have been learned here and help apply them to corridors and main streets around the state where there are real issues as well.
And Alicia and Janice, same kind of questions I'd asked Lena just about this building, since we're in the shadows of it, we need a little bit more detail. Was this one, I don't know, Coliseum, former nightclub, or what was this building? What happened to it, and what are we talking when it's done?
Sure, it had lots of lives before its current design, but there was a historic ballroom in there a number of years ago. Prior to the fires, there were some restaurants in there and some nonprofit organizations that use it as workplace. And so the intention moving forward is to have the first floor be restaurant and retail. So one of our other partners, Chris, from Denord, is going to operate a restaurant on the first floor, and then the other first floor spaces are retail spaces, and then the second and third floors will be workplaces. Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
I just want to add.
Yeah.
There is a need for affordable space that people can use and meeting space. So on the first and second floor, there will also be available event center space that people can use so that they can come and meet in an affordable rate, but have the highest level of technology available to them.
Can the walls stay? It doesn't have to come down and go back up the walls?
It survived.
Yeah.
It survived.
Strong building.
Yes.
Sure. So we are mobilizing right now. So we're in the process of closing, and so we're anticipating a winter start for construction in about 12 to 15 months to build. So soon.
When you're putting that together too, and she's mentioning Chris, this is Chris Montana of Denord Distillery, which is a pioneering black-owned distillery, and it's a big, huge deal that he's opening a restaurant as part of it. Also, just for context, this is the former historic site of Minneapolis Moline. It was a very large manufacturing business. It was an area that was workers from that worked and then went to the bars nearby and stuff. So that's sort of historically what this neighborhood's been.
So were there business owners displaced using this space that are now coming back, or is it we're going to repurpose the building to give that space for BIPOC entrepreneurs to own their property and kind of create a new thing here?
Yeah, so before COVID and the civil unrest, the building was actually about to start its own renovation process. So a lot of the businesses that were in there were slowly leaving to make way for that process. And so when Redesign purchased the property in order to buy and hold an accumulated project that we could be proud of, we did reach out to the previous businesses that were there to say, hey, we're working on this, would you like to come back? Most of them actually found other places to be, and so they had moved on, and some are interested in coming back, and we're working with them. But generally speaking, as Janice has alluded to, the goal is that it's affordable commercial, and that tends to attract local, small businesses that are BIPOC owned. That's what this corridor is about, and that's how Redesign does its leasing practices. And so we always put together buildings and properties that attract those kinds of tenants, and we take care of them, and we have vibrant buildings. So we're going to duplicate that at this building as well.
Okay, I think keep the Coliseum name.
We do, yes. There'll be some new signage and some updated font choices, but it will remain the Coliseum.
Any other questions? Okay, good. We'll be available for one other thing. I've been corrected on my damage estimate. The damage estimate on Lake Street, Allison and Russ, what was the number you guys were using?
Conservatively over $250 million just for a full restoration, reconstruction of all the properties lost.
Yeah, so again, the dollars here are deeply appreciated and far less what it will take to do a total rebuild, but we're very pleased we're in this situation.
This plot, was this destroyed, or was this all been?
This was all burned, and Rodeo, thank you. It was a big nightclub aboard. This Gandhi Mahal was a beloved restaurant. Curry in a Hurry, the owner is now operating in the Seward neighborhood, but there's a very big vision for this place as well that would be for Gandhi Mahal's new home, for Pangea Theater, and Migazi, which burned, which was a tremendous loss for the community.